It has been quite some time since Daibadi decided to release Polynian number 8, Rucio, or Lucio if you want to localize it. And in that time, they've released great new characters, but every so often they decide to do a color swap. And it was high time for them to take Rucio and create this, what we're going to look at today. That's right. Today, we are indeed looking at Rucy rather than Rucio. Or I guess we could call her Lucy if we want to localize her name. Now this has been a long time coming. If you remember, I enjoyed Lucio quite a bit. And honestly, the only thing that I didn't like was the finish on his skin. He has a strange painted on white texture to his skin, which looks really unnatural compared to some of the other figures. Now Lucy looks identical to Lucio because it's the same exact sculpt with all the same accessories. But this one here, of course, is a color swap, and rather than putting the male version on the front of the box, this time they featured the females. So it's nice to have that contrast between the two. This one took me a little time to get because it came out a few months ago, and of course there have been some shipping problems, but we finally have it in hand, and after looking at the box, I've got to say I'm really excited to get into this. I loved the original figure, but like I said, that skin was just kind of grossly painted, so hopefully this one will fix that issue. Let's find out. Inside the box, of course, we have some handling instructions, but because this is all in Japanese, we can't read this, so let's discard of it. But here she is inside of her blister. But as you can see, it almost looks like it was loosened up here, and a lot of the parts are starting to kind of fall out, so let's go ahead and free her from her plastic prison since she wants to get out so badly. So this is something new for the packaging. The actual pieces here are all covered by a very thin layer of plastic. As you can see there, that is keeping everything from spilling out, which is new to my understanding, which is why it looked like the pieces were hovering around and that it wasn't fully clicked in. So that's actually new, and I do like that they are making it a little bit more secure in shipping, so that's nice. So then, right out of the packaging, I've taken a look over this figure, and I've got to say it's rather nice. This is of course the first figure that they've produced outside of Kelly's production cycle, meaning if, according to what I was told by the person from Daibadi is correct, this is from the original factories rather than the ones they were using as an alternative. So, she should not have all the problems that Kelly did, which is good. And I can already say that she does feel really good in hand. Her joints are all responsive. Most of her features are painted rather clean. And overall, it just looks nice. One thing that I noticed about Kelly was inside of this area here, it was incredibly gray and dirty looking. And I didn't know if that was just kind of a sign of how poorly these things were put together at this other factory, but it just seemed kind of gross, and it was through multiple figures, so that was one thing to look at. Now, I showed this in Kelly's video, but if you just take a look in here, it looks really nasty and dirty. You see all that gray in there? That's not from the joint, I can assure you, because none of the other figures had this when you take them apart, so it just kind of showed me how cheaply these were made at this other factory. And as I was hoping, I can already report that her skin does not have the same problem as the original Lucio. Let me just show you for comparison. This one, as you can see, is incredibly bright because it is painted white, which looks really cheap and kind of gross, especially compared to the softness of when it's molded as the color that it's going to be. It just looks unnatural compared to her. So yeah, that was something that always bothered me, especially because then you can't really use his faces on any other character, nor his hands, which isn't that big of a deal, but still, it just looks that jarring when you look at them side by side. Now obviously this one has a more pastel color here, which is great. This little light pink and then that really light Easterish yellow is just a great little combo here, especially for a girl character. But of course, once we make this a male, it'll be even more adorable. But if you're new here, let's go ahead and go over articulation. These things all have the same articulation. They are on ball peg joints, which are lovely. They go up and down, and of course they swivel at either side, so all of them have a pretty similar range of motion. Up and down, swivel it at wherever you like, and of course it can then rotate and sort of roll if you manipulate it the right way. Really versatile joints, and of course they have worked all the way through the first figure, so I don't think they're ever going to change that. As you can see, the elbow does the same, swivel up and down. Same thing with the wrist. There's another one inside of the midsection, which of course will allow him to go forward a decent amount, and also backwards a decent amount as well. The legs have the same one, so it can go in and out, swivel at either side, and roll around however you need it to. Same thing with the knee, in and out, and of course swivel. The ankle has the same range of motion as well. And finally, just like with the other one, you can take off the flip-flop. How cute is that? Overall, really cute, and I do like it. So funny enough, right out of the box, it actually has the male hair on it, but then the female pelvis, which is just kind of weird. It sort of conflicts there, but either way, let's go ahead and swap out that hair and turn it into a full girl. Getting the hair plate off was really difficult. That was really tight for some reason. I'm not quite sure, but of course you can just swap that hair plate. It's really snug, so be careful because you could always scratch the figure trying to rub that brown hair on the white face. But as you see here, the chest is somewhat exposed, so let's go ahead and take this little yellow ribbon and place that inside here. That just kind of floats in there, and it looks good, but the problem is that it can fall out kind of easily. And I regret to inform you that the last thing that would typically make this the female version is having the same problem as the first time. This little piece right here, this little star, is actually a hair clip, and you're supposed to be able to put that right here, because, let's get a little closer and I'll show you. See, there's a fracture that goes down this way and then across that way. There's a vertical line and a horizontal line. And where these two lines meet should correspond with this little divot on the back. You can just barely see there's an indentation there. That is supposed to just press in, and this is supposed to kind of just rest on the face, or the hair rather. The problem is that the actual indent where the hair is painted over, and that creates no gap for this thing to fall inside of. Part of me thinks that the model kit boys would just get in there with a craft knife and dig that out a little bit and make that indent a bit deeper so it did fit inside the groove, but unfortunately, I am not willing to take that risk with this figure. So, like I did before, I'll just use a tiny piece of rolled up tape on it. It's not the end of the world or anything, but it is something that I would have liked to have seen them try to fix a little bit better. Using tape is just a really primitive method of fixing this, and it does work, but it's just annoying to have to use a piece of tape. So now that we've covered up her chest and put the hair clip in the proper hair, this makes Lucy, an actual girl. But as many of you Polynian fans are aware, we can turn this character into an adorable boy. And a lot of people that are into the Polynian brand seem to really like traps, so let's go ahead and do it. Take off the legs, take off the bottom section, grab the male pelvis and abdomen, and plug everything back together. Now pop off that female hair and put the little spiky portion back on. And bam, look at that. It is hard to not see that this character is now a boy. I mean, besides the really obnoxious bulge, it's just a cute character. Though I will say, with these lighter colors, this one is far more feminine than Lucio. Now, when it was just Lucio, it made a little bit more sense because, well, he has those dark trunks, so you can't really see everything, but in yellow, goodness gracious, that thing is just begging to be looked at. I'm a little trap bot, yes I am. You can't fit my junk into your hand. But besides all of this gender swapping, there are plenty of accessories to go with them. Like before, we get the boogie board, which has a little bit of articulation to it in these little arms that can actually fold in and out, as well as there is a peg on the front and a hole on the back, 2 holes actually, so you could adapt this to the back, or plug stuff into it as well, or put the arms out and make the character hold it. Another thing I like about some of the coloring here is the actual paint job in and of itself. Some of it's matted, but there's other parts that are sort of pearly and almost metallic, which I do like. Additionally, this character comes with little tiny submachine guns almost that look to be filled with water clips. I've always really liked this accessory. On the original one, they were super cute, but you know, I think I like this color just a bit more. It's really neat looking. Now, in addition to that, there are these tiny little water tanks, which you can plug into the pouches on Lucio's side, or you can plug them into the actual gun here and make it look like it has an additional clip going there. There are fins that go onto the bottom of the sandal, which plug in just to a tiny little tab right there, and they just kind of give a little bit more presence to the foot, which is interesting for sure. In the past, I had some problems with plugging these in. They weren't very easy to do because the peg seemed to be bigger than the hole, so I actually had to wear down the peg to fit it in, but this time I didn't have any problems. So it's nice to see they fixed that. It also comes with this awesome set of little cannons, I guess, little hydro cannons that can plug into the boogie board on the back to create a sort of jetpack almost, which is really nice, or you can aim them to the front and make them water blasters as well. By default, Lucy is wearing a pair of balled up fists. Now, interestingly here, there are two different types of fists. The one on the left side of the screen here is the default, which has the thumb at the top of the fist. The one on the right side has the thumb rolled over the front of the knuckles. This has been the case with other figures that have gender swapping, and I'm assuming that one of them looks a little bit more feminine than the other, though I've never really understood it myself. Still, it's nice to have that ability to change it either way, because this one doesn't come with terribly many other hands. But in addition to those fists, we also have an open hand here, which is always nice to have to give a friendly wave to a fellow robot. And the final fist is the locked wrist accessory fist, which comes with pretty much every one of the Polynian characters now. These are equipped with a hole inside, which allows them to carry some of the many accessories that are available among the other Polynian figures. But in addition to this just being a neat looking piece that can be held, you can also plug the tab here into the back of the character. Now with it plugged in, you're going to want to take the arms and extend those outwards so that you can then plug in this awesome little blaster. And with everything plugged in, you can see that Lucio here means some serious business. Those cannons are pretty impressive, and plugged into the boogie board like that really gives this character a little bit more weight, which is really nice to see on a dainty little boy like this. By default, the character wears a really adorable smile, which I'm really liking that bold black line for the mouth. This looks really cute. But like the other figures, you can remove the hair and then remove the faceplate so that you can change it out for something new. And this is just great. I really like this a lot. That bold blue eye is so pretty, especially when you contrast it to the fact that the other one is closed, so it really invites you to look into the other eye. The smile is really nice too. We seldom get to see the teeth too often because they kind of blend with the rest of the skin, but I do like this quite a bit. It really does sort of convey the idea of him being a really cutesy young boy and just being somewhat of even a Lothario maybe. Look at this charmer. Unfortunately, they don't match that starry-eyed smile from the original figure, which I was a really big fan of, but I guess they wanted to differentiate this one just a bit from the original. In addition, we have both eyes fully closed and the mouth wide open in a rather happy smile, though unfortunately mine does have a bit of a painting error. As you can see, some of the pink has bled out onto the lip, which just looks a little bit sloppy and kind of stupid, but whatever, we'll see if maybe we can get that replaced. But let's actually reference those QC errors, because it's not as if they don't exist. There are some molding issues here and there, but they're not too huge, but the big problem is the painting. A lot of it's just really inaccurate. Mainly in the hair here, where you can see the pink highlights, they look really bad. They're not filled whatsoever to the edge. Compared to the regular Lucio, you can see that they're filled pretty fully. So I've got to say, it's kind of sad to see that they're still not doing these justice with the painting. But it's not as if it's overtly bad. You can't really notice it unless you're really looking for it. Now, with everything considered, let's get down to what makes this a review, where I actually talk about how I feel about this figure. So obviously, I originally really enjoyed Lucio as he was. The first figure was awesome, and despite that terrible paint job on the body, I still thought overall it was a great figure. I love the design, it's really unique. I love the clothing style, and of course that overall androgyny of being able to swap the gender. The backpacks, the little miniguns, everything there is really nice, and it all paints a great picture to create a unique character. So my feelings haven't changed there. If anything, this one helps me appreciate it even more, because despite it having a few production errors, of which I expected some, this still is an improvement over the original. One of the big points is the skin. The fact that that was already fixed from the start makes this leagues above the other one. Besides that, I do enjoy the new color scheme. While I think the first one is a little bit more favored because I'm not that big into traps, so I liked him to look a little bit more like a boy when he was in boy form, still, I will say that this one is attractive, and I do enjoy it, though it's not exactly my favorite. But that doesn't discredit the fact that I still think these new colors work and they look good. Especially with the fact that he has the softer, regular skin, I will say that the clothes do fit the character overall. And of course this goes for both forms. It works even better for the girl form. The accessories all similarly have new colors as well, which I do enjoy. There's really no one big issue with this figure. Like I said, there were some production issues and everything, but they're going to be expected on any of the figures, and we can't expect any of these to be perfect since I found out that they were hand-painted, so that in and of itself will always create some inconsistencies. So with everything in mind, I originally gave Lucio a solid 9 out of 10, which I do regret now in retrospect. I would maybe have given it an 8 considering the skin situation, but of course, since that was the case, I'm going to have to go ahead and give Polynian number 8A, Lucy, or Rucy, however you want to call her, a 10 out of 10. I have to grade her higher than the original one because it got more correct than the first one. But what did you guys think? Did you like this figure? Did you actually get it? Are you a fan of Lucy or Lucio? Do you like the original color scheme or the new color scheme? Why don't you go ahead and comment below and let me know. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and get more figure reviews as they come out. Like the video if you did indeed like it, and follow my Twitter to get more updates. Join the Discord because that's always fun, and I guess that's probably everything I should plug for now. I'm going to link the original Lucio review right up here in the corner, so make sure to click that if you want to check out the original and see how I thought about it. But with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, have an amazing weekend, and keep on collecting.